Good to finally
Uh,
meet you, man.
yeah, man. Yeah, loving your stuff, Hector. So, super, super, super excited. I don't do too many podcasts or things like that. Like, that's just not like what I do, but I was super excited just to be doing yours. So, thank you, man.
Yeah, first of all, you wanna introduce yourself, tell everybody what you do, what you're into, how I give them a sense of how I met you.
Yeah. Awesome. Just for everybody who may not know me, my name is Jose. I also go by the name of Kiko. That's like an old industry name that I have for a long time. And I do artist production. I do event uh, event curation based out of Philadelphia, and also Upper West Side, New York City, Brooklyn, Bronx, like all of like New York City. And yeah, right now we're doing it in like a virtual setting, trying to do all these virtual shows, trying to take over the world in some capacity with them.
Yeah, that's how I met you. To jump right into it, that's how I met you. I had come across this account, Solar Tree. Solar Tree, am I saying it right?
Okay. Yep.
Solar
Yeah.
Tree, and it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. I don't know when I came across it, maybe April, May, and I saw that you
Yeah.
guys were doing these, like you said, these live events. These like how would you say them? Broadcast,
Yeah. Yeah. I would say just
poetry
like,
readings, music,
the
um,
live.
all, all
No,
kinds of
no, go
stuff,
ahead.
right? All kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nobody else. Even now. I see people do that like a special. They'll do like a special poetry thing or a special music thing. But you guys have been doing it consistently the whole pandemic,
Yeah.
which I think is really needed, man. Because like art
Thank
has
you,
had a
man.
big effect on my life.
Hmm.
Coming up and even now, it's been shaped the course of my life and. Especially you guys being Latino and urban. I know that makes it
Yeah.
sound like I'm fucking like this is a fucking country radio show or something like that. But you know what I mean, right? You know what I mean?
No,
Like
yeah.
you look
Yeah.
like somebody like me because like sometimes like Latinos who are artsy, like they're not my kind of people. You know
And
what I
people, yeah.
mean? But
Facts.
like
Yeah.
you guys make art accessible, and I think like I was talking to somebody who came on who was a Broadway composer and stuff like that. And I'm like,
Mhm.
we really need to do a good job of getting arts among Latinos, man,
Yeah, of course. Hmm. Yeah.
especially men, because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't know how you feel. I know this is a controversial show. I say some controversial things, and one of
No,
them
no,
is
it's
like
cool. It's cool.
Latinas are being supported and great.
No,
like
no,
I said,
yeah.
I'm married to a
Hmm.
Latina, and they're being supported, and it's
Oh, yeah.
but with Latinos, if you're a cis Latino male, you're still put in a box. You can't be
Yeah.
artistic. You can't be
No.
expressive in any way. You can't read books. What's wrong with you? Estás enfermo or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, no. And I think like where, it goes back to a lot of things that I've said before about like in terms of our culture, we're supposed to be one-sided, right? We're supposed to be tough. We're supposed to bottle everything in, and we really can't express who we are unless it's you are that male machismo figure, right? So when it comes to a lot of the artists that we work with, they are Latin artists that you didn't realize that they could do that type of genre. You didn't know that they could do that type of art because it's where they don't get the credit for it because they're not doing what is big right now, right? Like they're not doing the reggaeton music. They're
Yeah,
not doing the pop music.
yeah.
It's like where I had a kid, um, probably maybe like 2 or 3 shows ago, by the name of Tony Hernandez. And you would think just from his name, he's gonna be singing some, nice, classical bachata stuff. And the kid just came out of nowhere singing just pure country music. Like he had that country voice and he had that different sound that nobody would have ever realized it, but he did something different. And people are like, yo, that kid was awesome. Like we love that kid. And it was
Where was he
something
from?
different.
Where was he from?
He's from a little town outside of like Dallas, Texas, I think. But literally, like he just was just everybody was just so shocked by it, and it really just goes back to the whole, going back to where people don't realize that in terms of males, like we're supposed to be dancing and doing reggaeton and doing that type of stuff, but when it
Do me a
comes to
favor, move
Latinos.
your screen down a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
There you go.
Gotcha.
There you go. And let me check something real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
I took a break off from recording last week because I had my
Oh,
brother in
there.
town, and so
Hmm.
now I'm like all paranoid. Am I doing it right? But like it becomes like muscle memory, the whole setup and everything like
No,
that.
yeah, definitely, for
I
sure,
mean,
for sure.
so I mean, how did it start with you? How first of all, how did Solar start? How do you know all these artists? Who are you?
So like, so like the where like when it comes to me, uh, this whole thing started 2017. Um, I literally been in the hip hop R&B business already since I was like 17, 18 years old.
Oh wow.
So like to me, I kind of started to get to that
Like in what
point in my career.
capacity? Like what capacity? Like what you've been doing?
I've done artist management, artist production, sound engineer, studio engineer, marketing,
How
street
do you get
marketing.
into that, man? I'm a lay person, right? I mean, I talk to all these people, but I don't know nothing. Like, how do you get into that?
So like with me, it was funny because one of my good friends at the time, I was like 17. I was like still like in like high school trying to figure out my whole entire life. And he literally was like, hey, listen, one of my brothers, he has like an interview with like some like record exec, and we just need somebody just to lie and just say that, hey,
Wow.
you're like the manager. So literally, I have no idea, but because I have the glasses and because like I could like dress the part, I literally was like, all right, cool, I will do it. Went into this meeting. 1, 2, 3. The guy's like, hey, we want to sign these guys. The guys never signed the contract. They obviously broke up before the contract could be signed. But after that point on, I was like, oh, I could do
And
this. Like,
how'd you do it? Because I'm imagining. Have you ever seen Good Will Hunting where Ben Affleck goes in retainer,
yeah,
retainer?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. I literally was like, all right, look, you guys, this is their demo, because this is like before we had like MP3s and all that. Like literally, it was a tape, and I literally was like, hey, here's a tape. This is their sound. This is what we want. And I pitched this whole entire scheme. I literally was like, yeah, they could do this, they could do that, we could do it all. And they were like, cool, that sounds perfect. Let's sign the contract. Next thing you know, all the kids are fighting. Everybody wants to be the leader. Everybody wants more
Ooh.
money. I'm like, you know what? We're just gonna just. That was cool, but now that I know that I can do it, how do I do it? And I just told myself, like I went to school maybe for a semester or two just so I can learn like engineering, but the rest was just I just picked up. I just like leached on to people, and like I watched everything that where everybody did. So like if person A did this, I'll do it the same way, but I did it my way, and then I'll create something, and I'll create my own thing after that.
It's crazy, like when you talk to successful people, quote unquote, and you find out like, oh, they didn't know what the hell they were doing when they started out. They
Yeah,
still don't know, right? They
yeah,
still don't know. And
yeah.
they're just
That's
really good
true.
at figuring out how to make it work.
Yeah, and I think that that's what the key is. Like once you can figure it out, once you figure out your own niche, that's how
Yeah.
you become successful. But like if you follow everybody else's way, you just become part of the pack and you never make it.
And they say that's the problem with social media now is that too many people are copying each other, trying to jump on
So
waves, and it's
much.
just like, no, do you? Very few people. We
Yeah.
say that a lot, right? Do you hashtag do you?
Hmm.
Very few people know exactly what that means. And it means to just whatever weirdness, uniqueness you are,
Yeah.
fucking run with that. Like, don't even
Yeah,
hide it.
exactly.
Accentuate.
Hmm.
Scream it
Yeah.
out.
Hmm. And I think that that's the whole thing. Like everybody's doing the same thing, um, like as soon as this whole like pandemic started, everybody jumped onto like the Instagram live showcases, open mics, and I literally sat back and I told my partner, I was like, I don't want to be like everybody else. How do we be different? How do we change it? So now that everybody be like, yeah, I'd rather watch them instead of watch of an 8 hour open mic on like IG,
Yeah.
but like now, because of the things in which we've done, everybody's following us. I see so many artists that either we work with or just came across, and they were like, all right, well now, we want to do the Facebook live events. We want to do these weekly shows just like you guys. And now I'm sitting here and I'm like, all right, well, we now did this. Now let's take it to the next level. And what's next? And how do we change it? And how do we make it different?
Yeah, that's the other thing that successful people do is like, what's next? How do I take it
Mm-hmm.
to the next level? Like, this is great. I'm at
Yeah.
a level where I never thought I would be, but I'm not
Hmm.
satisfied. Let's go. Let's keep going. Let's
Yeah.
keep going.
Hmm.
And a lot of people you bring on, like what was it? I can't remember. Face. He had a guitar and the girl was singing on the couch, and that was their first. That was
Oh
their
yeah,
first time
yeah,
doing Instagram Live, and they were
yeah, 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 yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Who was it? That was
Face
I think it was
something.
Naraya Soul, I think it
Yeah,
was.
maybe.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, and I think that that's pretty cool. It's like I've had a lot of these artists that they've really done innovative stuff on these shows, and it kind of stand out. Like I had one of my favorite artists. Her name is Zaida Eve, and she's out of Brooklyn. And I guess she rented out a whole entire studio or like a whole entire club. I don't know what she rented out, but she literally it was just her and one camera guy, and her whole 15 minutes performance is her going throughout the whole entire club, dancing, the lights, the smokes. Like it looked like a whole entire setup, and it was just her having fun. And like people were like, wow, like just we can have fun and not just be in our home playing with like our guitar,
Yeah.
and not just doing the same thing. And I had another guy too by the name of Havoc, our last show I think 2 weeks ago, and he was like in like his living room, and they had all these tech problems, but it was so fun because you can see all the pureness coming out of it. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the best thing about this is just pureness. Like, how do we show people you are an artist, but you're trying to make it work, and you're not just sitting at home, but you are making moves.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. Like, there's too much processed music, right? And it's perfect. Like
Yeah.
Ariana Grande, right? Where I think a lot of people who don't know about music, and I don't know a lot about music, but most people think like, oh, this Ariana Grande records in one take, not
Yeah,
knowing that
yeah,
there's this computer program that takes this word from
yeah,
this take and mix it with this word, and like it's basically computer singing to us,
yeah,
basically computer. It's like a
yeah, exactly.
computerized version of their voice. So like whenever you see like live performances or stripped albums, right, where you can
Mm,
see the imperfections, like they hit the guitar wrong, like that makes it
yeah,
beautiful because that's human,
that's what
right?
makes
Because
it
human
fun. Yeah,
human nature is imperfect.
yeah, and I think that that's what I truly miss about the whole like live stage is really just kind of just saying, hey, how are these artists not perfect? Because just like what you said, that's what makes the shows better. Just like with me, I grew up a like pure, just like hardcore metalhead. Like I'm a
Oh, really?
metalhead.
Like
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
Coheed and Cambry and all that stuff, or what?
yeah, yeah, like just like Cold Heat, we're talking about Kill Switch, we're talking about Sworn Enemy, Irate, like
No,
Full Blown
you're getting
Chaos,
way too
like
out of there for me. I mean,
yeah,
what this is my one
yeah.
Coheed. Coheed. I lived in Chicago,
Mhm.
and my some of my friends are metalheads. I never really got into it. A friend of mine, his older brother, liked Slipknot in high school,
So, no, yeah, yeah,
and so I came home from school once, and they were all in my apartment. I don't know how they got in. They were in there, whatever. And they're like, "Hey, we're going to Cirque du Soleil," you know. And so I get
Mhm.
dressed. I think it's my first time at Cirque du Soleil, so I'm getting dressed, and I come out, and they're like, "No, no, don't wear that. That's the first. That's the first warning." They're like, "Don't wear that. Wear
Yeah.
all black." I'm like, "What?"
Mhm.
And so we
Yeah.
get there, right? And I just hear, it's a Coheed concert, and they
Alright,
had us
yeah,
tickets in the pit.
yeah,
Long story
yeah,
short, we leave with no shirt. My friends leave with no shirts, belts
yeah,
around their
yeah,
necks, all these bruises and
yeah,
shit. I mean, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
so how do you get into metal? What's the appeal of metal for somebody who's not into it?
Um, I think it depends. I know like with like hmm, I would say when it comes to a lot of things that like actual people, I literally like, hey, read the lyrics, listen to the song.
Mm,
And then from there, that's when people are like, okay, this is dope. Even with like I've had friends of mine's, even like my like partner right now, she's never listened to metal, never in her life. And I literally was like, sweetheart, listen, this is what they're saying. And as soon as she sees it, she's like, oh, okay, like this is pretty cool. So I think if you could just like start them off with like, hey, this is what they're saying, and then let them kind of go from there.
that's what happened with Marilyn Manson. Like when he came out, I remember like everybody's like he's the devil, like it's all yelling and shit like that.
Yeah,
And then they were like, no, just listen to his lyrics. Like he's actually an
yeah, of course.
artist and like he's a poet,
Yeah,
right? Like he's talking about society
mhm,
and shit like that.
yeah,
How old were you when you got into it? Yeah, I would guess they're 12, 13, 14.
yeah,
That
yeah.
rebellious
And so,
stage when you want to yell at
yeah,
the
yeah.
world, right?
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like 13, 14, and like I remember my first concert was just really weird because, like I would take the whole notion of like what I saw on TV, like metalheads, they wore skinny jeans, all black, dog collar chains, doing like all that type of stuff. And then like I go to this concert and it's all Puerto Ricans, all Cubans, all Dominicans, all blacks, and they're dressed just like how I'm dressed. Like we're dressed, and like at that time we had like the big like pants, and we had like the bata shirts here in like New York City with like the Timbs on, and but like everybody's dressed just like we're all from the hood.
Yeah.
And like everybody's Puerto Rican, Dominican, like I said, and everybody's from the hood. And I'm like, this is really weird because my whole idea, my whole perception was everybody wasn't like me.
Right.
And then when I get there, it's like everybody is like me, and it just made my whole interaction into the
It
metal scene more
reshuffles
fun.
your whole idea of like who you are, what your culture is, what your
of
people
course.
are, right?
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
Because how many
Yeah,
people growing
so-
up like think like, oh, I have to wear Timbs. Like we all went through that, right? I have to wear Timbs. I have to wear baggy pants because that's what everybody's around me is wearing. But maybe I'm not into that, right?
Yeah. Of
Again,
course,
going
of course.
along with what everybody else is doing, right? Conforming.
Yeah, and it was just very fun, and like don't wear. It's a crazy thing that a lot of the guys that I went to metal shows with are now guys that I work with in like the R&B, soul, comedy type of little like genre world, and it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, because music's music, right? I mean,
Yeah, of course.
if you really like music, then you like a lot of different kinds of music, right? If you really like music, you can't say, "Oh, but I only like hip hop," or "I like." Then you don't really like music, right?
Music, of course.
Where are you from? Like, where'd you grow up?
So I grew up on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, born and raised. My father's Puerto Rican. My mom was second generation Italian American.
Okay.
So it was definitely interesting. I'm one of the New York Puerto Ricans that like don't speak Spanish. So that was always the most interesting part of like my childhood because, having to speak to people and people are like, but you're Puerto Rican. I'm like, yeah, I don't ask me. Like,
yeah.
So it was it was very weird at first, but then it's like, as I started to get older, I started to meet more Puerto Ricans out of New York City that was the same exact whole lifestyle. Like they were Puerto Rican, but they never spoke Spanish, never learned Spanish, nothing like that. So it was very interesting.
But it's crazy how that, because I'm the same way. I mean, I was raised by my grandma first because my mom went to the Navy when I was real young. So the first person I remember taking care of me is my grandma. She speaks Spanish, Honduran. My dad's Puerto Rican. And but then I forgot Spanish. Now I don't speak Spanish, and because Puerto Ricans, I'll say for Puerto Ricans, Puerto Ricans tend to be a proud people, right? And they throw their whole shoulder into the language, right? Into Spanish, like bacalao and all that stuff,
all that.
And I mean, when I see somebody, Puerto Rican speaking Spanish like that, like I'm so jealous. I feel you feel less Puerto Rican, right?
Yeah.
And it's sad. Like I was talking Spanish. My wife's Mexican, so I was talking Spanish to my suegra, my mother-in-law. And her sisters are like, "Oh my god! Oh wow! Puerto Ricans really don't speak Spanish." And I was like, "It's called colonialism. It's called Americanization."
Yeah. It's a really weird thing, man. Like I went I would say like right now I tend to go to Puerto Rico at least like twice a year. My mom lives out there, which is like really weird. My mom's in Catalina.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think our family's from Vega Baja.
Okay, nice. I heard it's nice out there. I haven't been out there, but yeah, like we're with my mom. My mom's a Italian American woman, and she lives in Puerto Rico all by herself. Like she literally is out there, doesn't speak a lick of Spanish, but she could tell you how to get from one side of like the island to the other, all like public transportation. Like she lived her whole life down. Well, she's lived for the last couple of years down there, so it's just weird. Like we go down there and it's a whole different culture, just a whole different life.
You just saying that made me think of something. It's like the same. There has to be an overlap between the Latinos who say you're not really Latino if you don't speak Spanish. Those same Latinos are probably the same Latinos who are against people who say, "Oh, you're not really an American if you don't speak English."
English,
right?
Yeah.
Like, cause like your mom's sounds Puerto Rican, right? Like, she doesn't may not speak the language, but she knows more about Puerto Rico than a lot of Puerto Ricans, right? Especially on the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
And so just because she doesn't know the language, that's ridiculous. That's like diminishing it, minimizing it to something so small, minor.
Yeah, that's I would say that's a conversation I had about like maybe like 2 weeks ago of where it's like, you know, I was reading something or somebody told me about someone, but they were basically Chinese, but they grew up in a Latin household. Like they literally grew up down in Puerto Rico, and they were born and they basically were born, bred. Everything is Puerto Rico. They live down there, you know, everything like that, but they don't look it, you know. But automatically, people are like, "You're not really Puerto Rican. You're not really Puerto Rican." But if you were born and bred and that's your culture and that's what you grew up on, does it matter really what you look like if that is what you kind of believe in and that's who you are and that's what you speak? Like, it's a very just weird dynamic how like people automatically judge us for how we look, and people are like, well, you're not this because you don't speak it, or else like, you know, you're not this because you don't look like it. But deep down inside, like, that's who we are.
Yeah, there's just weird, like, we're in this weird moment right now culturally, especially with like millennials. I mean, I don't know how I'm 35, about to turn 36 on Tuesday.
I'm the same age, bro. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
84, yeah, 84, yeah. 85?
85.
All right, I'm 84.
85. Yeah.
But there's this whole thing like where, you know, we're trying to get away from categories. We're trying to get away from categories, right? Like, you know, break open categories. You know, everybody can be what they want to be. And yet rigidly defining categories at the same time. It's so weird. And like, you know, it's kind of the theme of our conversation right now, because, you know, you're talking about metalheads and you were expecting to see one thing and then you saw completely something else. And like,
and they saw something else. Mm-hmm.
And that's what art does, right? Art is supposed to surprise you.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't surprise you, if it doesn't, like, what do you think? You know, because you're running an account that is bringing across a bunch of artists, you know, and giving live performances. So you've been in the art world, right? Yeah. What do you think makes something good art? Do you think there's good art versus bad art? I've asked people this before on the show. Do you think there's good art versus bad art? What makes something good art? What makes something bad art?
I don't think there's good or bad art. I think it's how you perceive your own art, right? Like if you truly believe in what you do, it doesn't matter if 100 people hate it because you truly believe in that. And if you get that one fan that's like, hey, I love your work, then automatically that's good art, you know? So I don't think there is a good or bad art. I think it's how you perceive yourself in that whole moment, right? Like if you really are, oh my God, like I'm not getting 10 million followers and I'm not getting, you know, this much money, I'm such a bad artist. That's how you're perceiving it to yourself. So I think that people have to just kind of look at it and say, hey, you know what? I'm doing great art, right? Like I'm doing this for what I believe in. And I know that there'll be somebody down the line that's going to say, hey, I love it too. Let's just continue building. Also, I don't think there's really too much good or bad art. I think it's just strictly be who you want to be, do your art, have fun with it, explore with it. People are willing to really invest in what you believe in, you know, like I remember a couple of years ago, there was some kid, he sold blank canvases and he said, this is art. And there was people paying thousands of dollars for it. And like, he's like, yeah, it's just like imagination art. And I literally was just like, okay, I'm going to have my son just take a crayon and just draw one time right across just like a canvas and say, hey, this is art, because it's how you perceive yourself and it's how you build yourself up. Right. And like, if you literally tell yourself every single day, this is art and this is what I believe in, and you encourage people, say, you know, this is what I believe in, you should believe in what I believe in, and you continue building that, you're going to do it. So,
I mean, most days I feel like that, right? Most days I'm like, people like, people got to do what they feel inside, and whatever they feel inside, if they do it with passion and intention and concentration and persistence, is beautiful. But sometimes I'll come across something like that's bad art, you know, like and so it's like a war within myself. But you're right. It is all about perspective, and that's not only art, that's politics, it's everything, right? Today we think something so firmly, and we don't know how to do that mental exercise of like, yeah, you think it's so firmly because you're standing right where you're standing. Imagine standing over there. Imagine standing over there. What would you think then?
Of course. Yeah.
But then it's like, I'm not even high, but it's like a high question. Like, like people, they'll have like paintbrushes in those, they give paintbrushes to
Mhm.
elephants and they'll sell those
Yeah, yeah,
paintings for a lot of money and,
yeah, okay.
and call it
Yeah, of
art.
course.
Now, is that art? Does art have to be human or can animals make art?
I think, I think, I think
That's the
honestly,
highest
anything
question, right?
could. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really honestly think anybody could just make art. Truly, look, you can go out to the woods right now, and you could just see a tree and be like, you know what, that's some artful work. Like just like the way the art, I mean, just the way the tree is bent over or curled or whatever. Like, I think anything can just be art, and I think that that's what, like, people don't take fully too much advantage of. It's just the art that's all around them, right? Like,
Yeah. I
no,
mean, that's another thing. Like, I just told my brother he was here, and I used to be a hardcore atheist, militant atheist. I would argue against anybody who did the sign of the
Mhm.
cross. Like, why are you doing that? You don't even know what that means. Blah blah. I was going to war with everybody, right?
Yeah.
But now, the older I get, the more I read, the more I listen to people.
Mhm.
I'm not spiritual. I'm not lighting candles or nothing, but
No, right.
I get the sense that there's something out there. There's something, right? I believe in
Mhm.
a law, a universal law, right? Like karma
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
way. Like
yeah,
you're gonna
yeah.
pay for
Mhm.
the things you do one way or another.
Mhm.
But the other reason I think there's something is that I live out in Vegas now, right? And just driving across
Mhm.
the country, you see these vistas, you see these landscapes that are
Mhm.
more beautiful than any painting that man can ever create.
Yeah, of course.
And you're
Mhm.
like, there's an artist here. Like somebody's just
Yeah.
showing off. Somebody's just
Yeah,
showing
of
off,
course. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that the Greek said, right? Like the perfect art is to come as close to you can as to real nature, because nature is the true
Mhm.
artist.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're
And I
talking
think
about,
that,
like with like stripped music and live performances, right? I get away from
yeah,
process, away from computerized, away from digital. You have to get
of
close.
course.
We're part of nature, so anything that's more human is more
Right.
artistic.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that that's what goes back to what exactly this whole thing that I'm doing right now is like all about, is just really just sitting back and saying, how do we strip all the layers away and how do we let people feel these artists at home, right? How do we really just say, hey, you know what, this is how the artist feels, right? And there's no filters, there's, nothing that's going to prevent us from saying you can't do this, right? Like,
Right.
I have artists all the time who sit back and they tell me, and they're basically like, all right, what type of songs do you guys want me to do? What type of music do you guys allow? And I tell them, like, honestly, you got 15 minutes. I don't care what you do. Just make sure that it's somewhat, kid appropriate sometimes. But other than that, we don't care. We want you to just come on this stage or this camera or this digital platform and say, look, this is who I am. This is what makes me. And then, and like, to me, that makes every show worth it. But if I start to water down artists and say, okay, you can only have, 2 minutes that you have to talk about this and 2 minutes to talk, like, it makes it bad. And I guess that goes back essentially to saying what's bad art is when you're literally forcing people to be in a bubble of their art and saying like, hey, this is what you can and cannot do, instead of saying, hey, have fun, be free, go crazy, let's see what you can do.
And that's how I am as an editor, and anybody listening, watching to this will know. Like I've edited a few places, and people will pitch me ideas like, "What do you want me to write about? What do you want me to write?" I don't care what you write about.
Yeah.
Even I have a website now, Enclave. I
Mhm.
don't care if you're pro Trump. If it's good
Yeah.
writing, and I think you really believe it, and
Yeah, of
it's good,
course. Hmm.
but it has to be good writing. I'm
Yeah.
interested. I'll publish it, right? I don't care, like, because at the end of the
Hmm.
day, who knows who's right, right? Like we're all just fucking pissing in the wind, right?
Yeah.
And so, like for me to say, oh, that's no, I don't agree with that. Like that's how I am as an editor. And I lost my train of thought. Um,
It's cool.
so
It's
as an
Friday.
engineer, right? That means you're sitting behind that big ass machine with all the knobs and stuff.
Well, as far as me, I just have my laptop. I just, yeah, 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 yeah. I
And it
literally
basically does the
just,
same thing now, right? You don't need those big rooms
yeah,
anymore. That's crazy.
yeah,
That's what I wanted to
yeah.
say. The thing about Solar Tree is that like all these artists are doing it from their living room now, right? Adele or
Yeah,
whoever. They're not in
yeah,
Royal Albert Hall or some shit like that where that
yeah.
would draw
Hmm.
attention. And so now artists who maybe wouldn't get that opportunity, everybody's on the level playing field.
Exactly.
Everybody's doing it from
Yeah.
their couch, so you can just judge it. It's stripped away completely. It's stripped down to the art.
Or exactly. And I think that that's the best part. And all right, I know 2020 has been a bad year, but I think if you really kind of look at it from like the artist perspective, this is the best year. This is honestly the best year to be any type of artist because you can take that step back, just like you said, you're literally on this even playing field right now. So you can strip everything away. You can create new music. You can create connections with people from all over the world, and you could build something that nobody would have expected from you, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, this is what this whole COVID pandemic needs. You know, once this is all said and done, we're going to need the storytellers, just like every generation. You know, after Rome fell, after wars, after all that, you always had the storytellers to tell you that story, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what 2020 is like. You know, like there's so many artists that are just making albums in their house that they're not leaving to go to the big studios no more.
Yeah.
You know, and at the same time, just like you said, nobody's using any of these big halls. Nobody's going to Madison Square Garden. Nobody's going to any big places. Everything is all, hey, in my living room, on my couch, in my basement. You know, and it's gonna be like that for a while now.
It's so true that you're saying that we need storytellers. I mean, there's this whole idea in anthropology, like, okay, what makes human beings different? And
Hmm.
the first thing they thought back in the day, oh, we're the only ones who have language. Now we know that whales have language, chimps have, birds
Yeah,
have language, right? Well,
yeah,
we're the only things that make things. Nope, that's not true, right?
true.
Chimps use
Hmm.
tools, beavers make dams. Now there's
Yeah.
this whole, I forget, it's called Homo something, and it's like, it means like that we're the only animal that tells stories,
Hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
beautiful, right? Like that, it's true. Like we are the only animal that maybe it's true for right now. Maybe we'll find out that birds are telling stories
Yeah.
to each other.
Yeah.
And I think they are. I think I saw like this documentary where like crows will meet in a tree. And they'll be like,
Yeah.
"Man, I was somewhere right now, and this fucking cat was, attacking me or something like that." Crows are fucking crazy, but
No, yeah.
um, yeah, storytellers, right? And that's what art is. Art, at the end of the day, is telling a story.
Story. Exactly.
Whether
Hmm.
it's a
And
song, whether it's a painting, whether it's a sculpture, it's a story.
whether you juggling,
Yeah.
you know, whatever jugglers
But
juggle, but
but there you go. Well, what's a blank canvas? What story does that tell?
that right there just tells you a beginning. That right there just tells you somebody just had a scheme and they were able to, to just sell the blank cabins. But you know, honestly, I think it's all just all the beginning. I think that this is just a start. This is just fresh. You know,
Yeah.
like let's just be fresh. Let's
Yeah.
just get new ideas. You know, let's just pave the way. Like maybe this is what we all needed was just a fresh start for everything, not just art, but for family, for life, for just walking away from what we thought was a great job and saying, forget it. I'm gonna walk away from this and do something different. You know?
Yeah, I mean, just like Solar Tree is stripping it down to the art, this pandemic has stripped our lives down straight
Hmm.
to the living, right? Just to
Yeah.
day to day life. Who am I? What am I gonna
Hmm.
do? Like I was just watching Dave Chappelle was on Joe Rogan and they were talking about like how yeah, some people, we were so caught up in the rat race. Like something had to give. Like
Yeah.
2019, like it was getting to a pressure, right? And like shit, like is
Hmm.
this life? Am I gonna do this every
Yeah.
day for what? For no
Yeah. Of course.
money? And
Hmm.
so now you're forced to reflect. You're forced to say, what do I want? What makes me happy?
Hmm.
And it's basically stripped. Like, yeah, people are dying, but like, if every bad thing, it's yin and yang, man. Every bad thing comes with
Bad has
opportunity for
good.
right, exactly. So
Yeah.
I mean, how do artists find you if they wanna go on Solar Tree? I mean, and what do you take anybody? I mean, I sounds like you do, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think, just for us, we definitely are working with any type of artist. I know that we have plans eventually, hopefully, sometime in 2021 to really work with a lot more hip hop based artists. That's something that we haven't really done too much. But, anybody can reach us, facebook.com/Solartree, Instagram.com/Solartree _. Um, I we should be having a website up soon. So maybe in the next couple of weeks and stuff like that, we should have a website up. Probably be called solartryathome.com. And that's like the whole like thing that I'm trying to build right now is this whole like at home network. Like, how do we continuously improve? How do we continuously have these different events that everybody can like be involved in? So working on, moving into podcasts and doing just like a whole entire like a tri-monthly web series type thing going on. So, little by little,
Yeah,
making some sort of moves.
it's crazy how, I mean, and some people, most people aren't like that, right? Most people aren't trying to make moves, right? And so it's
Yeah,
really, it's
yeah.
always great to meet somebody like you who's like, trying to, again, and what the pandemic was good, you said it was good for artists. It's really good for like Latinos, like people who were never
Yeah,
going to get
man.
that chance in 2019 when
Of
the
course.
system was in place and the
That was,
establishment.
yeah, like I would say, just like right now, there's so many positive Latin podcasters. I don't know if that's the word, podcasters.
Podcaster, yeah.
Podcasters, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, just like yourself. I have another good friend of mine by the name of Mario Benitez. He does his podcast out of Harlem. So, but once again, nobody would have ever said, hey, you know what, all these Latinos, they could just do it, and I think that that's the big thing, is we need better representation within our own culture, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I've always been very strong about. And I think that that's the one thing that we kind of don't see too much, and this goes back to our conversation, is that, like a lot of males, we don't get that credit. Like you look at John Leguizamo, right? Like he's been in this business for so many years, and yet like he definitely deserves all that credit, but he's not getting the roles because he's Latin, right? And
I just
there's
said on
different
another show,
guys.
like John Leguizamo is a living fucking legend, and nobody will.
He is.
We're not going to appreciate him sadly until he's gone, and we realize, oh,
Oh
we're never
yeah,
going to think of all the movies he's been in, the Broadway, the
movie. Oh my,
shows, he's
his comic
everywhere.
book,
His
like yeah, everywhere. And that's the whole thing. I think that he represents such a missing part of our culture that we will never get that again. We will never see another John Leguizamo. And it's not because there's nobody that can do it like him, but I think this industry is so like, well, we already had one of him. We don't want another one of him, right?
yeah.
And it's just how this industry is. Like, they just tend to water us down into that one little,
Especially
you
if they're
know,
non-Latino, like somebody can come along who's
yeah.
doing something not at all like John Leguizamo, but since
Mm-hmm.
we all look alike to them, they're like, oh, it's just
Yeah,
another
cool.
John Leguizamo. But us Latinos will be like, no, that's not another John Leguizamo. He's doing something different. It's an evolution.
Exactly. Exactly. And, I think that that's the key for all of us is that, there needs to be that change within our society to say, hey, you know what? You're Puerto Rican. You can act, you can sing, you can do all of this. You're that talented. We're going to put you on, it's just a missing piece. And, if I would say that it's just a really bad thing for like our next generation because even just like John Leguizamo said, like we literally went missing. Like there was that timeline that we all went missing. Like nobody knows about all the stuff that we've done and all the positive things that we did, within our society.
Yeah, I mean, the more you learn about Latino history, the more you realize like how, like we were here first. You think
Yeah.
it's Thanksgiving, so we're gonna be reading about and hearing about the Pilgrims. Not know, most people, especially kids, not knowing that Latinos were here for over 100 years before that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, of course, of course. And it's just like, like I was talking to somebody about the just about the Young Lords. Like nobody gives the Young Lords the credit that is due to them because they were Latino, right? It isn't because they didn't do anything, but it's because they were Latino, and you know, nobody can really go back and say, hey, all the Young Lords, they did this. They changed how Latinos get medical and how we get schooling and food and all that. Nobody ever talks about that, which to me is, really makes it hard for any Latin kid to really want to go
Yeah.
to school, right? Like where I had a meeting a couple just maybe like 2 days ago where we had a very just like similar conversation to where, if there was more representation of us on a positive strength in music, in art, in regular day to day in school, maybe more kids like us would graduate and go to college and kind of just be like, hey, you know what? I can be like that person,
Right.
or, that person paved the way. I know for me, like, I don't really like high school too much because it was like, it was the same stuff I learned in middle school, same stuff I learned in elementary school. Like it was the same thing, except for one teacher. I have one teacher that he just like, all right, well, we're doing Puerto Rican studies.
That's the
And
really
like to
thing.
me,
That's
I
the
like,
thing about school. It's not even about the what they teach, not the curriculum. It's the people, it's the teachers, because that's what we all
yeah,
remember,
yeah,
right? That one teacher
yeah,
who got me onto history.
mhm.
That one teacher who got me onto poetry, right?
Yeah, of course. So it's just a crazy society, like hopefully one day things will change and we could better be represented, but that's sort of what, we're trying to do over here, like
Right.
we're working on a project, and I think I'll just tell the world about this project because I've been trying to hold on to it before I make that announcement, but I might as
I
well
mean,
just
you look
tell
like you're
you.
too excited to hold on
Yeah,
to it.
yeah. Yeah, like where I've literally have just been since like September. I just been like kind of just like I gotta tell somebody, but we are working on a project with a crew down in Puerto Rico, and it's like all like Puerto Rican. In the beginning, it's based on Puerto Rican artists down in Puerto Rico, and we have them performing poetry, music, dance, all that type of stuff. And we're gonna turn it into it's like a 6 episode series, and then kind of just build from that point on, and just try to just get the people, like just get the kids and get everybody out of Puerto Rico to really get that positive shine, and you know,
That's
hopefully we
crazy, man.
get.
I mean, because I see the seed in the the what is it called, the sapling or whatever, like, right when it's growing.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
could see you
cool.
like in 10 years, really, organizing like
Yeah,
festivals at Madison Square
yeah,
Garden and
cool.
shit like that. Because it's just
Yeah,
because what you're doing right now is showing like there's talent here that the mainstream
there
doesn't want to
is.
take a chance on. And to talk about representation and like, oh yeah, we need representation because like there's black boys who want to be actors because there's a Denzel Washington, right? There's a Jamie
Washington.
Foxx,
Mm-hmm.
or they want to be
Exactly.
in sports because they see LeBron James or whatever.
James. Mm-hmm.
Um, Latinos, the cynical part of me thinks that they don't give us those representations because they don't want us to do that, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
get the sense like because John Leguizamo is our Denzel Washington, man,
Washington.
multi
Mm-hmm. He is.
talented, right? Hyphenate
Yeah.
up
Mhm.
the ass, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yo, he is.
And
You
there's Latino boys especially who think, oh, I can't do anything, not knowing that there's a John Leguizamo who
in
not
the
only did
world.
it but did
Mhm.
it back when it was way too hard for a Latino to do it. Now it's easier, right?
And
Let's be real,
yeah, of course.
but we're
Hmm.
still not
Yeah.
given that encouragement.
Yeah. And I could definitely say like, e- hmm, even when it comes to like, Latin directors, we don't have no Latin directors except for Jesse Terrero.
Yeah,
Jesse Terrero is a guy that he's making his moves. He's been in this industry for so many years. That like now it's he got his own he got his own. I think he got a Escalade commercial now. Like he's a director that now has his own commercial, and he's doing his own show on Netflix. He just
yeah,
did the Nicky Jam show up on
okay,
Netflix
okay.
too. So but like the where it goes back to where it's like little by little we are, but it's just not enough. Like will we be able to see that change within our generations to say, hey, you got 50 Latin artists all at, the Grammys, or you got 50 artists all at the Oscars, and are they going to win? Like, that's what we don't have a lot of.
But they're not going to do that, right? Because there's so many few spots, right? It's so many few
Yeah, of
spots,
course.
right?
It's
And we
spots.
still
Yeah,
live in
yeah.
a
Mm-hmm.
we still live in a white supremacist society, and it's gonna be like that for a
Mm-hmm.
while.
Wild. It is.
So
It
we
is.
just
It
got to
is.
make our own,
It's
like you're doing, and like I'm doing. We just got to make our own space and be like, you know what? I might not win an Oscar, but I'm gonna win the applause of my people, of my group.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And I think that that's exactly goes back to our whole entire conversation. It's, what? We could build it within our circle. It is good art for us.
Yeah,
our fans are going to love it because to them it's good art. And because of them, they're going to continue riding with us. They're going to build with us. They're going to be like, oh, wow, okay, we love this because you put these artists on who we can relate to, and I think that from a generational point, this is what we need, we just need programs, just like your program, my program, so many programs out there that are going to be, positive influences just for the years to come. And people will be like, hey, I love what you do because naturally that represents me. I can understand that because it represents me.
Right. And I mean, I think, not to go too far with it, but I think it makes, our artists better because you weed out a lot of people like, you're not going to be a rich Latino artist. You're not going to be an award winning.
Mm-hmm.
The odds of it are very small, right? So if you're going to do art, do it for yourself, do it for the people.
Mm-hmm.
And so weeds out a lot of people who, you meet white artists or white poets who are like, I'm a poet, and they don't write poetry. They like it comes with like a status. But in Latino circles, saying artist, especially as a man, again, as an artist, if you say artist, people roll their eyes. Latinos, right?
Yeah, of course, because I think where they don't see it as any type of financial hard work, right?
Yeah.
They don't see it as, like where there's a lot of, older generationals that will literally be like, that's not real work. You're not
That's so
working in the factory.
Because like we owe them, right? They busted their ass to come here
for us,
and fucking eating, in my case, tortillas, quesadillas every day, for fucking months, for me to what? Become an artist? Be a starving artist? They're like, oh man. But I told my grandma, I'm like, no, you made that sacrifice so that I can come here, so that your grandkids, so that your grandkids could be whatever the fuck they wanted to be. That's the American dream, not money, not the house, not the cars.
And I think that that's the whole thing, is that people have this whole perception of what the real, just like what the commercialized American dream is, which is, the house, the cars, the 4.5 kids, the picket fence, but you know what? That's not our American dream no more. Like we may never reach that 4.5 kids in the house and the cars and whatever, because that's not how this society is, So what is our dream, right? Our dream is to, hey, you know what? We're going to give it all up, build this company, see how far we can take it, see how far we can take people with us, and we can achieve these bigger dreams. And that's how we become successful. I think that our vision of success is different than our parents and our grandparents' vision of success, right? I think that when it came to my dad, he would tell me all the time, he'd be like, oh, you go to college, you go work in the, you go get an office job, things like that. But to me, I always took the different route. I said, you know what? I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to, continue doing my regular day-to-day job, because I saw that I can be successful, right? And I saw that I was making more than people with, masters, right? And I said, you know what? I'm going to continue doing that, but to me, that was my success, right? Yeah. I was like, it doesn't really have to do anything about money. It's about what makes me happy, and that's what I'm trying to teach my son too. I'm like, you could go to college, but have a plan in life, sit back and say, you know what, this is what I want to do. Who do you want to be?
What do you want to
don't
be?
Make me happy. Yeah, of course. You don't have to make me happy, right? You don't have to think that because you went to college and you're doing this and you're doing that, that's gonna make me happy. What's gonna make me happy is seeing you happy, right? So if you say, hey dad, I want to be a world famous DJ, do it. Have a backup plan. Sit back and say, hey,
or
this is
tell them that it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take more work than you even know.
Yeah. But to me, I'm like, as long as you're happy,
right?
And I raised you in that good way. That's my success, not the money, not the 4.5 kids. That's how my whole American dream is. It's I busted my ass. I did what I had to do. I lived my dream. So now I'm gonna let my son live his dream, and I support him. He even doing this, he came into the room and he literally was like, Dad, what are you doing? It's like, look, I have an interview at 3. Don't bother me. This and that. But to him, he literally was like, oh my God, Dad, I think you're famous. I was like, I'm definitely not famous, but thank you for that. But he was so excited just to sit there, watch me, put up the lights and do all that. That's what makes him excited. But I think seeing that also breaks our whole like generational stuff, because like, we saw our parents work a certain job. So, we obviously were like, hey, let's go, do what our parents did. Right.
And I
Like,
was gonna say, like, and we
you
saw
know,
that our parents weren't as happy as they could be, not even
clearly,
close. They drank too
yeah.
much. They just fought a lot.
Hmm.
They weren't happy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Hmm.
the rat race didn't make them happy. And they're telling us to do the rat race because that's what their parents taught them.
Told them to do. Hmm.
And now
Yeah.
we're like, the rat race is not gonna make me happy. What's gonna make me
Yeah.
happy? And in a way, like since the money and the accolades aren't readily available to us, we go about our
Hmm.
careers the healthy way, saying
Yeah.
what's in me to do, what do I want to do, and then when the money and the
Yeah.
accolades, if they do, and when they do come, then it's like, oh, that's
Hmm.
awesome, but I didn't do it for that. I've been doing it
For
for
that.
this.
Exactly. Exactly. Like where, I look at my partner right now, like, you know, she started her own, like, I think maybe like 5 years ago, she started her own like all female minority owned theater company. And just to see their success, and I'm like, yo, like you literally did it off of the strength of just, just you having a dream, and now you guys are so successful. Like that's the dream. Like you just accomplished something that nobody can do,
How was it?
and that's what,
I wanted to move to this because you said partner, right? And I've used partner. I kind of say wife now because I know wife has for me, wife has a negative connotation, but I'm trying to, like, just like the N word, I'm trying to take it back, right?
right. Yeah,
I'm trying to
yeah,
have wife
yeah,
mean partner, right? Because I'm
yeah,
married, and I see my wife as my partner in life, meaning she's helping me be the best person that I can be and achieve all my
yeah,
goals, and vice versa. And
yeah,
she's
of
in
course.
business, and I admire the fuck out of her. I look up to
Yo,
her,
for real.
and she's
Yeah,
younger than
yeah,
me, and I look up to her. How important is
yeah.
that? I mean, why do you use partner? Why do you use partner? I know what you're gonna say, so I think it's important as Latino men, to really, because machismo is still strong, even with our own family, right? There's pressure in
Yo,
your
they're
family
strong.
to put your wife down here, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that, like just like with me, like when it came to my dad, he literally was just all about my mom. Like my mom could was up here. Literally, I remember him saying, "Look, mom's the boss." You know, we'll go to dad. Hey, dad, this and that. I'd be like, you talk to the boss. She's in charge. Everything was your mom. You know, he went to work, but everything was about my mom. She took care of everything. So, like, to me, it's like, even with my sisters, like, I love my sisters. They're the boss. Like, I might be a little bit older, I might be younger, but I like always looked at the females in my life as up here, as if like they're the ones that are going to help me, and they're going to help me in like my whole entire life. So when it comes to, my girlfriend right now, it's just, just like with you, I I love everything that where she does, that it could be the smallest thing and I'll text her like, listen, like just know that I'm your number one fan. Like just I'm super excited about every little thing that where she does that. Even her whole business, I can honestly say, like, just like with you, I admire the fuck out of what she has built, being a Latina woman in this theater art industry, which is hard as fuck, because nobody wants to give her her respect because she's not one of them, because she's not white, because, she doesn't have the money. They don't want to give her that respect. But she forced them to give her that respect. To me, I'm like, the fuck did you do that? But literally awards, accolades, all that from such an industry that is saying we don't want you, but she got them. So, I use partner because, that's who she is. Like, she's not like, she's my other half. Like she's, you know, she helps, takes care of me and my family, me and her, we, building this business all together. Actually, she's the host of our show, Soul at Home. So, she literally was the one that said, let's go do a show. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to do this. She's like, no, we want you to go figure out how to go build a show. So honestly, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have done this whole like
Yeah, how
digital
important is it
solatry
as an artist,
movement.
as male entrepreneur, to have your partner, your girl. I mean, I'm not saying your, but you know what I mean.
No. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, 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 yeah.
I saw something interesting. A guy said like, my girl, and people are like, oh, she doesn't belong to you. She doesn't belong to you. And he explained it. And it was a beautiful way of explaining it. Maybe it was just blowing
Yeah.
smoke up people's asses. But he's like, I say she's my girl because I'm her man. I belong to her. I give myself to her,
Hmm.
and she gives herself to
Yeah.
me. But anyways, how important is it to like, because like in the field that we're in, the industry that we're in, the world that we're in, or in different parts of it, man,
Hmm.
every day you're discouraged like 5 times, 10 times a fucking day, right? You want to
Yeah.
quit 10 times a day. You know what?
I
Everybody
think
was
I'm
right.
gonna
I just need to
quit
get
today.
go get a fucking office job. What the fuck am I
Yeah.
doing? Where is
Hmm.
this going? And they're like, no,
Yeah.
man, I believe in you. And you have that one
Yeah.
person who, especially because she knows you and she still
Of
believes
course.
in you. You're like, oh fuck, I can
Yeah.
do anything.
Yeah. No, no. I get yelled at all the time, but it's just because like, I have my days where I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I could do this. And literally she's like, no, you can do this. You are doing this. Look at how much people love what you do. We're gonna continue doing this. I'm gonna be by your side. Literally, that's actually how I actually met her. Was like doing one of my shows. She was like one of my hosts, and like I just saw that like she had this strength. She had this presence to her where like she was a woman. Like that's just a thing. Like where I had my sister tell me that one time where like she literally was like, she's not a girl. She's not a lady. She's a woman. She's a grown ass woman. And if you can't handle her, you don't deserve anybody.
Yeah.
And to me, that kind of made me think to where I'm like, damn, you know what? You're right. Like, she runs this business. She's doing it on her own. She is
Force of
younger.
nature, like a force of
I mean,
nature.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like to where I'm just like, yo, like anybody would be lucky. And I know that I'm lucky. So I'm never gonna ever sit back and say, hey, you know what? Like I'm gonna, you know, just what's the word? Play you down. Like I'm never gonna put you down, like none like that. Like you keep me up, I'm gonna keep you up, and together we're gonna run this business all together. So it's
Yeah,
it's been
and
good.
few people have that, right? Few people have that relationship. I mean, I have that relationship with my wife, but like I know guys who like keep they see the relationship as adversarial, like it's me versus
Mm-hmm.
her. You know,
Yeah, of course,
it's she's trying to
of
get me,
course.
I'm trying to get her, and secretly, it's like, damn,
Yeah,
you're gonna spend your life like
they're like
that?
yeah, like that's not healthy. Hey, listen, I told my girl straight up. I said, listen. I want you to make it, so I could just stay home. Like,
No,
like,
your
like, like,
success is my
like,
success.
yeah. Hey, listen. You know what? I can stay home, and in the future, whenever it is, 2, 3 years, like once you want to have kids, I can stay home. I can be the stay-at-home dad. You be successful. Like I have no problem with that because I believe in what you do so much, right? Like
Yeah, no,
I
my,
believe
my,
in
my wife's a
everything that you do.
businesswoman. She makes a gang of money, so it
Yeah, of
takes so much
course.
pressure off of me to not make money. But now
Hmm.
I'm in a
Yeah,
race to get money so that she could retire
yeah,
early and we could
yeah, of course.
switch roles,
We
right?
can retire together. Yeah, of course, of course. And I think like what, that eventually is gonna happen.
Yeah,
Like there's gonna be that day in which she's like, hey, listen, you know what? We're gonna get married. We're gonna have kids, and that's when roles will semi-reverse. But it's always gonna be where like I have her back, she has my back. You know, she loves what I do. I love what she does. So it definitely works for us. There's no competition here.
my whole
Everything
thing
is
is like
equal.
as a Latino man trying to make it in this as with my art, with my writing, with my
Yeah.
podcast, is that people don't. I feel like people don't. Maybe you'll tell me how you feel about it. People don't take me seriously. Like I'm getting older now, so like people are starting to take me more seriously. But as a
Yeah.
young Latino man, people didn't take me seriously. So I'm just kind of waiting everybody out. I'm waiting out once the old heads get out of the way, I'll be an
That's
old
when we'll
head,
be there.
right? And people will be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's that nigga. Like he's been doing it forever."
Yeah.
And then I'll just
Or
get my due, right? But like,
yeah.
you have to, and that's why white people do it, and that's why a lot of Latinos drop out because they got to go make money. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a war of attrition, right? You just got to keep doing it
Yeah.
until the world accepts you, until they catch up to you.
Yeah. You know, I think, when it comes down to it too, like our priorities are so different, right? Like we literally were raised like, once you have a family, you got to hustle. You got
Yeah.
to do what you got to do. There's
Fuck
no
what you
question on
want.
it.
Fuck
Like,
what you want to
yeah,
express.
yeah, word. Like where, you need to work, right? Like if you need to work 2 or 3 jobs just to take care of your wife and your kids and, your grandma and your abuelo and all that stuff, you got to do what you got to do.
And if
And I
you
think that
don't do
that's
that, you're a
where,
piece of shit.
exactly. And I think that, that's the whole big thing. Like, this definitely goes back to us, way in the beginning of this conversation about, us, just us as men, right? Like we literally are put all this pressure on us to take care of our family no matter what. Take care of mom because we are mom's little Latin prince. We will forever be mom's Latin prince. And it's like we got to make sure to take care of moms, take care of the kids, the wife, your partner, whether you're married to a man or woman, but you got to take care of your family, and I think that that's what the issue is that you know, once we get to that point, we start looking at like, all right, well, we have kids and how do we take care of our family? And we put all our dreams aside. That's definitely one thing that, I remember having a conversation with my dad too one time where like he was like, yeah, I could have did art, I could have did this, but he's like, you know what? I met your mother, I love her, I love the kids. He's like, I decided I was just gonna
Well,
work.
that's
That
beautiful.
made me happy, you know. But
That's beautiful. But like,
yeah.
but like what you're saying, yeah, there's this whole that whole idea of like how just that men don't have souls, that we're just functional.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. And I think that, this goes back to a whole lot of like other conversations about just about like health, mental health, trying to really express who we are. You know, we're pretty much told this is how you're supposed to be, this is what you're gonna do, and this is how you're supposed to live your life. And a lot of times we don't ever get out of that little circle. We're like always stuck in that same bubble in life, and it just makes things harder for us just to grow and to become something different, but we definitely have to break that mold. I think that that's the key thing. I think that this generation has to break that mold and balance it out, right? Like, how do we balance out, having a family, doing art, doing all that?
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. It's been beautiful talking to you, man. Again, I didn't know what
Yeah.
we were going to talk about, and it was a great conversation. We're so alike. I thought, man,
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
crazy. It's crazy when you meet somebody and you think, oh, what are they about, and then we have so much in common, right? The way we think and
Yeah,
shit
of
like
course.
that. Let people know
Yeah,
how
definitely.
they can find you on social media and stuff like that.
Once again, you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Souletry, SOULETRI, Instagram.com/Souletry_. Don't forget the underscore. We have so many shows. We have so many things going on. We have Soul at Home with Gabby Sanchez. We have Spitting on the Spot with Andres Trulisi Rodriguez. We have Soul on Tap with B. We have Alma de Puerto Rico coming out in January. We have another podcast coming out. We have a teen night coming out.
I need to take a
You name
nap
it, we're
just hearing
just
all that.
yeah, man. We definitely are doing a
Respect,
lot
though.
of stuff,
Respect, man.
but we definitely just want to just kind of just get the artists out there and just help their exposure and really get people just to know about all this amazing talent from all over the world.
I appreciate you, and I'm sure the
Yeah,
artists that you're really giving a platform to appreciate you, man. Keep on your grind, and I'll have you back on the show. I'm sure you'll be doing something. You'll be
yeah,
taking over the
definitely.
world, and when
Yeah,
you take over the world, I'll have you back
definitely.
on.
Hector, man, listen, I really, really honestly do appreciate it. Bottom of my heart, very humble, very blessed by this. So thank you. You guys follow Hector, follow everything which he does as well.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Have a
So
good Thanksgiving. Have a good holiday. I'll be in touch, man.
yeah, definitely, brother. We'll definitely talk a little bit later.
Take it easy, man.
All right, man. Later.
Peace.